we've been able to workshop with so many different ideas, and we haven't been restrained to one particular text. It's given me as a dramaturg more freedom to kind of see what we can do with it, and it's been fun to see it come up on stage.
Cool. So the adaptation process. Largely it's been a communal effort, so we all kind of chipped in. Each person kind of had a section of a book that they were looking at, and what the adaptation process was largely was people kind of really pitching for their bit and wanting their bit to be in the show. And kind of as time progressed, we kind of found different sections that either worked for or kind of against what we were looking to do the text. So we're largely focusing on the home and kind of the kind of home sphere. So any bits that didn't really serve that kind of key idea kind of generally got discarded as we kind of moved towards the final script. And yeah, that's pretty much how it went. Like, everyone chipped in, everyone kind of worked together. It was just a really lovely organic process.
I think it's the fact that we can take such a timeless story with such a massive legacy and make it completely our own, make it something new, and something that speaks to us and what we're interested in.
Well, for me, it's being able to convert one language into another. So, well, written language into stage language, especially using non-verbal ways of communication.
We've really loved the idea of ritual, so that means a lot of repetition and how these kind of strings of gesture or sections of movement can become something that signifies something much bigger than ourselves. Things like feasting, cleansing, rituals of like togetherness, and I think that's something that makes up a lot of the kind of backbone of ancient Greek culture, but also something that kind of transforms itself to being a part of our lives today, and that also feeds into stuff like rhythm and repetition, and has really helped us like build the story.
We've been rehearsing, devising the material that we've been given, essentially, so that it can be made into stage language, mostly in terms of meaning and atmosphere.
We particularly have been using a lot of sound in the space, like with the actors making thunder with their feet and making like very, very sort of sharp sounds by pulling on fabric and by stomping their feet and clapping their hands and breathing. And in terms of sound design, we want to enhance that with sort of soundscapes and moods. So there's a lot of discussions going on, a lot of you just sort of sitting and taking notes and seeing what we reckon will work for the end product.
Rehearsal room. So as costume designer, I've largely been focusing on what the actors are doing. So for me, costume really kind of comes out of what the actors are doing in the space and how they're moving around. So our designs were largely informed by a lot of the movement work that Beth, our assistant director, has been doing with the actors. So you'll have seen they're not charging around the space, but kind of doing lots of movement, and it's quite a like highly stylized movement. So what I really wanted to do with costume was both allow that movement to happen, but also to kind of accentuate that movement, so to kind of really make it pop. So that's why there's kind of fabric that will flow and move as the actors move, and fabric that kind of becomes taut as the actors move into certain positions. So yeah, it's all about kind of serving what the actors are doing, and that's what I've been looking at in the rehearsal room.
So a lot of it has been thinking of like how does the set work coherently with what's ongoing in the space, so making sure everything has a kind of coherent atmosphere and seeing where actors can interact with the set in interesting ways.
Cool, so in terms of colours for costume, I was largely inspired by the lovely floor that our three set designers across the group, but our set designer Rosie has kind of developed, which is this lovely kind of brown, black, gold, quite creamy colours and really earthy tones. So from very early on, we knew that we wanted those earthy tones in the costume and to kind of reflect what the set's doing. So that's how we kind of came about with the kind of brown colours that we've got in the base costume, and then the creams for the kind of top layer of costume, the kind of dress on the top. And that all kind of came about, as I've kind of already mentioned, through the actors' movement and what they were doing in the space. So anything that could work for them rather than being a hindrance, or anything that could help their movements look either bigger or more restricted, was what my design was looking for. And it's pretty much been like that since the beginning. We knew pretty early on that that's the kind of thing we wanted to work with, so I've been very lucky in that regard.
I mean, I would choose book 22 when the big fight happens, and mostly because it's just the climax of the story. Everything has been building to this. He has gone on this huge journey, he has finally gotten home, and he's finally got to the point where he can actually kick out the suitors and actually reclaim his home. And the way that we're planning on doing it with bright red, like filling the stage, and sort of shadows sort of covering the space and filling it with smoke and haze, and really giving off this violent but heroic like moment for this character. But also I think the reason why I'm liking it the most in our section is because of the spin that we're putting on it. We're not necessarily looking at it as an entirely heroic thing, we're also looking at it from the perspective of Odysseus being quite an invasive figure. He has turned up and he is invading this place. He is not necessarily a particularly good force. And so we're liking the idea that we can show both sides of that. We can show the glory of him taking his home back, but also the horrific side of it, of him murdering all of these people, including those who potentially haven't done that much wrong.
It's really difficult because we won't see your reactions, but I guess hearing about your reactions to what the kind of changes that we have in the set, so things like when the fabric drops, key moments, I'd love to hear those reactions, because that's what we're really, I don't know, it's one of those kind of shock moments that we would love to hear feedback on. And it's a weird thing to be excited about because we're probably not going to hear that, but any kind of sense of what that's like for an audience